12 people have so much money that they could collectively buy us all houses and still be insanely rich. Think you know who they are? Fortunes are always changing, so these standings may surprise you. Mukesh Ambani, a Stanford graduate, has an $89.8 billion fortune that comes in part from Reliance Industries, the biggest oil refining complex on the planet. He's also made more than a few bucks off of cellular service provider Jio, and is now making plans to start offering financial services as well. Ambani spends his billions on, for one thing, a 27-story home, which is complete with a private movie theater, health spa, ballroom, ice cream parlor, temple, 3 floors of indoor gardens, an indoor snow room with artificial snowmakers inside the walls, 3 helipads, a 6-story parking garage with room for 168 cars, and rooms for 600 live-in servants. Keep in mind that's 100 servants for each member of the Ambani family and residence. While the home was valued at $400 million back in 2014, some estimates put its value at well over $1 billion now. Ambani also owns a 300-acre estate called Stokes Park outside of London, which has been featured in 2 James Bond movies.
This meeting is not a coincidence, eh? What's your game, Mr. Bond?
Plus, of course, he's got the usual billionaire accessories such as a number of Bentleys, Rolls-Royce, and Mercedes-Benzes, as well as a private plane. Carlos Slim Helu, the son of Lebanese immigrants, is now Mexico's wealthiest man. At the moment, he has $99.8 billion worth of assets, according to Forbes. His wealth comes from a fairly diverse portfolio, including a controlling stake in América Móvil, which is Latin America's premier cell phone carrier, as well as Grupo Carso, which invests heavily in construction projects throughout Mexico. He also owns Sears Mexico. Insider notes that Slim doesn't play into the usual billionaire extravagance, and instead chooses to live in the same house he and his family have occupied for 4 decades, a modest 6-bedroom affair. He also doesn't own any private planes or yachts. However, he does have a nice art collection, and even established the Museo Sumaya, a Mexico City art museum named after his late wife.
The interesting thing, there's 3,400 pieces of art in that museum. Carlos Slim has 64,000 pieces of art.
Not only is the museum not-for-profit, but it also doesn't even charge admission. According to Bloomberg, Steve Ballmer was hired by Microsoft back in 1980, at which time he was the 30th employee on the books. In time, however, he worked his way up and became the company's CEO, in the process earning himself a tidy little fortune. While he resigned from that position in 2014, he still owns a fair chunk of shares in the company. His assets, mostly those shares, afford him a net worth of $103.2 billion, according to Forbes. In addition to Ballmer's Microsoft shares, he also owns the LA Clippers basketball team, although we're not entirely sure whether this is a shrewd investment or a billionaire's plaything. Probably a bit of both, since it's undoubtedly a lot more fun sitting courtside at Clippers games than enduring another Microsoft shareholders meeting. The same year he purchased the basketball team, he also founded Ballmer Group with his wife Connie. Sergey Brin, who was born in the Soviet Union, moved to the U.S. when he was 6 years old. He did his undergraduate work in computer science and math at the University of Maryland, but then moved out to California to attend grad school at Stanford. There, he met Larry Page, and together they created Google, quite literally out of a garage. Today, he's one of the directors of Alphabet, the parent company, and his shares in the company make up much of his $105.5 billion fortune. He's also involved in overseeing the company's ventures into robotics. The one thing that Brin has that his former partner doesn't is a juicy scandal, one that has to do with another member of this esteemed list, Elon Musk. Musk is suspected of having had an affair with Brin's now ex-wife, Nicole Shanahan, although, of course, he denies the allegations. Nonetheless, Brin seems to have sold off all the shares he once owned in Musk's companies and divorced Shanahan. As we just mentioned, Larry Page was the other co-founder of Alphabet alongside Sergey Brin. Forbes reports that Page's assets currently weigh in at $111.1 billion. While Page does not own his own private island, he does now make his official residence in a country that's known for being popular with paranoid billionaires concerned about societal collapse. Page, an American by birth, moved his family to New Zealand during the pandemic, and CNBC says that he was granted citizenship status in 2021 for a mere $7 million. This is to be invested in New Zealand businesses and/or real estate over a 3-year period. It seems as though Page may be well on the way to fulfilling this obligation, as he's invested in a Kiwi accounting software startup named Xero and has been snapping up various properties across the island nation. A man that needs no introduction, Mark Zuckerberg is, of course, known for starting Facebook at the mere age of 19. Now the co-founder and chief executive of Meta Platforms, Zuck's net worth sits at a cool $114.4 billion, according to Forbes. Interestingly, according to a December 2015 SEC filing, the tech giant plans to give away a whopping 99% of his shares throughout his life. A notable philanthropist, Zuckerberg has donated $100 million of his Facebook shares to the Newark, New Jersey public school system, while he also gave away $36 million to the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. In his private life, the Facebook co-founder married Priscilla Chan in 2012, with whom he now shares a daughter. In May 2011, they purchased a 5,617 square foot home in Palo Alto, California, valued at $7 million. The house boasts 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, a saltwater pool, and a glassed-in sunroom, among other luxuries suited for a billionaire. Yet another of the world's most admirable billionaires is Warren Buffett, someone Gates outed as a major donor to the Gates Foundation with the following tweet: "Although the foundation bears our names, basically half our resources have come from Warren Buffett." According to an accompanying infographic, Buffett has contributed a total of $35.7 billion from 2006 to 2022. Counting the other charities he supports, Buffett's charitable giving as of June 2022 was $48 billion. Something that Forbes says may well make him the all-time philanthropic champ. Buffett's wealth sits at a comfortable $117.7 billion. As befits such a charitable man, he built his wealth by helping others build theirs. Bloomberg says that his investment group, Berkshire Hathaway, has produced almost a 20% compounded gain in value every year since 1965. What's more, a simple Google search or a visit to the public library will gain you invaluable free investing advice straight from the chairman's mouth. Need a good place to start? 45 years worth of shareholder letters is available to download from the Berkshire Hathaway website. Bill Gates is yet another billionaire whose name we all know and whose products many of us use on a daily basis. The Microsoft founder got rich the new-fashioned way by first creating a product and then very successfully convincing us we couldn't possibly live without it.
This is a machine that a lot of people are going to be able to afford. That's a very, very useful machine.
In fact, only those who are around Gates' age may be able to remember what life was like back in the dark ages before every middle-class home had a PC, or 3. Today, Gates is worth some $119.6 billion, making him the world's 5th richest man. But he doesn't seem to mind. In fact, he has plans to become even less wealthy in the future. While Gates has his detractors, one thing you can't accuse him of is being ungenerous. As per HNGN, his divorce from his former wife Melinda may result in a settlement of assets worth over $65 billion. And in July 2022, he also tweeted out the news that he'd be transferring $20 billion of his own money to the Gates Foundation. In a follow-up tweet, he noted, "As I look to the future, I plan to give virtually all of my wealth to the foundation. I will move down and eventually off of the list of the world's richest people." Now we move from the charitable to the questionable. Oracle founder and majority stakeholder Larry Ellison, whose $147.7 billion has him in the number 4 slot on the list, owns 98% of the Hawaiian island of Lanai, which he bought for $300 million in 2012. If the name of the island rings a faint bell harking back to your elementary social studies days, that's because it was once the place where Dole grew its pineapples. Now the island is a rich man's private playground, whose longtime residents are being driven out and small businesses shut down. Those island residents who do remain are usually in Ellison's employ and are living there on sufferance, since losing your job generally means that your lease is up as well. While Ellison may not be known for his charity towards the less fortunate, he is a big donor to the Republican Party and was supportive of efforts to decertify the 2020 election results. He's also a financial backer of the America's Cup yacht race and the Indian Wells tennis tournament. Wealthy though he may be, Ellison's own accountant once warned him that he needed to get a better grasp on budgeting and personal finance, as his spending habits tend toward the unsustainable. Unlike some other people on this list, Jeff Bezos built his fortune by selling all of the things to all of the people. Yes, in principle, monopolies are trash, and we should all be supporting local mom-and-pop businesses. But in actual practice, it's just so easy and convenient to buy everything we need on Amazon and have it delivered overnight for free. Most of us are guilty of taking advantage of these services, at least sometimes, if not on a regular basis. While Forbes says that Bezos is worth a respectable $154.5 billion, Fast Company recently noted in 2022 that he's lost even more of his wealth than Musk has. Over the past few years, his net worth has tumbled by 50%, and an earnings report from the same year from Amazon seems to indicate he may stand to lose a few billion more. While we're all still buying what the company is selling, we're not doing it to quite the extent they'd expected. The real cause behind his wealth leak, though, seems to be the fact that Amazon shares are declining in value as profits fail to live up to expectations. Not quite such a big name, at least not in the US, is the second-place billionaire, France's own Bernard Arnault. Arnault, who actually held the top spot on the world wealth charts in December 2019 and again in May 2021, is currently worth about $225.4 billion, according to Forbes.
I am very competitive. I always want to win.
Arnault makes his billions the old-fashioned way, by selling rich people stuff to other rich people. He heads up LVMH Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton, the luxury goods conglomerate that brings us Moet and Chandon champagne, Hennessy cognac, and Louis Vuitton fashion, as well as Dom Perignon, Tag Heuer, Fendi, Christian Dior, Givenchy, and other high-dollar brands. According to The Focus, Arnault lives in a 17th-century Parisian townhouse whose 20,000-plus square feet are packed with art by such prominent names as Basquiat, Andy Warhol, and Picasso. Unsurprisingly, he owns several chateaux in the countryside, a mansion on Saint-Tropez, an entire island in the Bahamas, and a collection of wineries around the world. Currently occupying the top spot is Twitter's controversial owner, Elon Musk. According to PayWizard, Musk calls in an estimated $384.6 million per day, which means that he's making over $200,000 per minute, even while he sleeps. Most cannot even wrap their head around that kind of money. Much of his wealth comes from the stocks he owns, and sometimes sells, in the companies he's founded, primarily Tesla and SpaceX. He's also got a few billion in assets from The Boring Company, a very dull-sounding organization that constructs tunnels. Plus, there's Twitter, or X now, right? In time, it may come to earn him some serious pocket change. However, that's all still up in the air at this point, considering how he's been conducting business in that realm. If you're green with envy, though, keep in mind that Musk has known loss and failure too, of a sort. In early 2020, he was worth a mere $25.6 billion, something that granted him mid-card billionaire status at best. By late 2021, his personal wealth soared to $340 billion. However, since then, he's dropped back to a more modest, relatively speaking, $237.1 billion as per Forbes' latest check. This means that he lost about 35% of his wealth in a single year, and yet it ultimately still didn't knock him off the top spot as the world's richest person.
I am dead inside.